I'm at Bali. And if you can see the beautiful rains outside, monsoon, so nice indoor time at the moment. Yeah, but I guess it's about time I jumped on and shared a little more about what it is that, I do. A lot of people are asking, so what do you do? Some people know me as trauma release exercise practitioner. Some people know me inner dance practitioner, core and cellular transformational healing, and family constellations with shamanic influences. At one point as well, I was offering shamanic circles with Peruvian Munaiki. So seemingly an eclectic things to offer, a background in psychology and actually psychotherapy. So what is all this? What's going on with this lady? So I suppose other people that have explored many things will understand. And just to paint a cohesive whole, I guess I saw the value in all of it, inspired by Vipassana meditation back in 97 is what kind of launched all of this into fascination and a passion to explore. So I guess a lot of people explore healing from having had a crisis, whereas I thankfully came at it from a Vipassana, just an overwhelming urge to do this 10-day meditation retreat in Thailand, and just something shifted in me really radically. And it's seemingly nothing is happening, right? You're there for day in, day out, up at 4 a.m., going through the motions, going, what am I doing? This is crazy. I'm mind-numbingly bored. I'm having all these thoughts. And something shifted in like day 8. And it's like I just dropped into this bigger sense of reality, or a sense of beingness. And I started getting insights around issues that were difficult in my life. And I was like, oh, and they do call it insight meditation. So I was fascinated from then on. It was like, why aren't we taught this at school? Or didn't people talk about this back home? So I was like really fascinated by that and wanted to bring that back. I'd studied science before, physics and chemistry, and that was like understanding the world, but it wasn't giving me all the answers. And then here suddenly there's a whole new, it's like fabric of reality that I've tapped into. And I went, wait, why isn't this being talked about? And then I realized it is being talked about a lot in the East. And that's why a lot of people were fascinated in coming over to the East with Buddhism, Hinduism. People were being drawn, like the kind of mainstream religions weren't giving all the answers of the deep experiential answering of questions and embodiment of what all this was about. So the best thing I could do when I went home is started studying psychology. Maybe this will give me answers. So, I learned a lot, and I appreciate everything that I learned in the whole world of psychology, cognitive, behavioral. I realized that it's missing soul. That's missing soul and spirit. So I kept looking, and Gestalt Therapy started to open up a lot more dynamic embodied experience. And then I came across core process psychotherapy, which is a game changer. And then I realized the difference between, say, what a lot of the Western psychotherapies are, and core process psychotherapy was like a Buddhist-based mindfulness psychotherapy. So it's really deepening into the felt sense of the body. Like that was a game changer. I realized that a lot of the Western psychotherapies, we talk about things, we analyze things, we might understand a lot of how we operate and why we do things, but if we don't shift the sense of like, how is that in the body, because we hold so much in the body, then we can understand it from a mental level, but nothing actually fundamentally changes. So this was a real huge shift for me. It was one of the, as well as this deepening into deeper sense of being was one of the shifts. Then it was like, we need to be embodied. We need to have the felt sense of, as we're talking, are we connected, embodied in an embodied way? So that's in a way that what birthed the name Embody Essence is what I sought to kind of align with from then on. And I've called my business that. It's like anything that will help us align with a deeper sense of this intuitive insight, knowingness of reality, and natural insights where we become our own healer and therapist, and how can that be facilitated. And one of these ways was like a deepening into this embodiment. So we call that somatic work. You see a lot of somatic practices now these days that goes beyond just the talk therapy. When we bring talk therapy with the embodied physicality, it's a game changer for really deep shifts. So yeah, I didn't stop there. I then went on to connect in with a more spiritual, it's kind of like adding soul and spirit into the world of therapy and healing, and that was another game changer. So it was a circle with Ciara Lyons, and yeah, it's a passion of mine. Like it's like we're so much more than our physicality, than our mental thoughts, than our emotions. There's something that's deeper, which I've shared, and there's a deeper connection in the universe that we can have. So this work with Ciara, core and cellular transformational healing, kind of really amped up the aha or the oh wow moment of like, if we connect into source, great spirit, whatever that higher power it means for you, instead of just it being an abstract, maybe that exists, maybe it doesn't. In this work, it's like everything's amplified. My sense of beingness, so that embodied sense gets amplified, that deeper knowingness gets amplified in this space. So creating sacred spaces where this energy is pouring through was a game changer. So it was like pouring light and awareness and energy into what's embodied in terms of old emotions that weren't processed, old traumas. And then it went beyond that into started showing me very strongly. This wasn't necessarily a common practice, but like past life realities started to bleed through. I was almost at one point I felt and heard flames coming up my legs, and it was just like whoa. And because of the depth of knowingness and presence and insight and vision that Ciara has, he was right there with me, and he could tell. He named a few things, and then by a subtle change in my energy, not perceived from the outside, we knew, more of that story unfolded. So it's not like I ever went looking for any past life experiences, but what can happen is they bleed through into this life, and so they need to be healed. So anything that's in the body and the energy field that's more dense, more traumatic, it's just the more we can heal and clear that, the freer we are. So yeah, I went on to do a lot of work with Ciara Lyons. It was incredible. A lot of emotional release, discharge, a lot of learning how the energetics work, the larger energetics work in circle, and aligning with the energy. And when one person is talking, doing a piece of work, it's like everybody's focused on that. If we start to chitter chatter from the mind, it just breaks it all. It disperses the energy. So really learning that how energy works, this like infinite intelligence works through circle, and how everything gets amplified in that sacred space was just phenomenal. So there's another core piece. So we've had the insight of the deeper essence of being, then it's the somatics, and then it's the sacred space. All the game changers. So it was, I never stopped training. It was just a passion of mine to keep going. I did train in transpersonal psychotherapy, a holistic type of circuit therapy, which is mind, body, soul, spirit. And I was very much interested in and open to the insights of, say, Indigenous cultures and shamanic traditions, where they tap into altered states of consciousness to get more wisdom and insight. So again, you can see how this a wholesome, holistic, systemic way of working really informs each other. It's not like the spiritual world is over here and the physical, psychological world is here. Often that's what's happened, like religion is split from the soul. Religion is split from science. Psychotherapy doesn't really deal with soul and spirit and magic. So all these splits. To me, they just know it's missing so much if you just stay in the realm of psychology as it is, or even if you just do the whole realm of spirituality, you can get lost in maybe spiritual bypassing. And if you're not going to the roots of going into the somatics of the body, then, ultimately those parts of us that are not healed are going to come in and sabotage. We may go on have amazing evolution experiences and spiritual experiences and insights, but the parts of us that are really reaching out in pain or fragmented off are going to come into play at some point. And often you see gurus who are incredible teachers in the spiritual realms, they get tripped up by their own unprocessed sexual needs or traumas, or ego comes in, and things come in at those levels. So the more we can bring those worlds of psychology, spirituality, somatics of being in the body, the more that we can go to the really roots of transformation and inner alchemy and shift at the deepest level, so that we're not constantly getting pulled back into the same patterns of whatever's going on in our life. It gets to a point where we're going in circles, and we realize, it's not just people who are, obviously very traumatized that could benefit from these healing spaces. It's like we all could clear up and become more whole in ourselves. So at one point in the healing kind of therapy journey, you realize, wow, there's so much to discover in ourselves, in our beingness, in our lives that can transform. That instead of it being, I should do this, or I need to heal this, I need to just heal to get better, you realize, when, say, a trigger presents itself or something is up and it's difficult, we get to learn to be comfortable with the discomfort. And then, instead of running away from it, we can face it head on and go, okay, what is this showing me? What's left? What part is left here that needs attention? What needs to be revealed so that I can reclaim more parts of myself or another part of myself and become more whole? So we start to look forward to things that might arise that are uncomfortable, and we dive in and learn more and reclaim more of ourselves. There's so much magic to explore, discover. I just realized, like, what we think is normal, and this is like a normal human being, and maybe it's like we're so much more, and we're still discovering. And we're at a time now where so many tools and practices are available to us that, the possibilities are limitless. And I'm really excited for how this unfolds. Like, none of us really know what's the potential that's here. So this journey has been going on since 1997 when I did that Vipassana retreat, and it's been just incredible. And then I did realize, oh wow, I'm holding this thing of trauma and then anxiety, depression, and moving through all of it, and there's so many layers and stories I may tell in the future. But and I guess any therapist or healer, if you're looking for a therapist or healer, as well as I mentioned, the more embodied somatic practices they are, the more, if you're open to working on the psychology of the spirit realm, that it's just going to be faster and have a bigger clear out, and you're going to have more of an understanding and access more of your true self, which is, for me, a big ultimate, like, the more we become whole and the more we can move forward in life and in our passion, and have a fulfilling life and thrive as opposed to merely surviving. And there's always so much to explore. I then went into the realm of family constellation systemic work, which really fitted with all of this. So here we get to within. It's more like it's not quite all fully in the spiritual realm, and it's not quite fully in the psychological realm. It's Bear Hellinger developed it, and it's like sitting in circle or one-on-one work. We realize that we can tap into this, what they call the knowing field. You could call it the quantum field, where everything exists within it. So we can use invite people to represent a family, somebody else's family system. And if they stand in different places on the floor, the energy field of those family members just come through, and we get to see what the pattern is in the family. So as well as having an individual soul, then we realize that we have a family soul and how that impacts us, even unconsciously, how something might have happened in our grandfather's time or further back. And if it hasn't been resolved, often there's unconscious patterns that are playing out with us, or we're entangled with a missing child, or there's been, it's just fascinating what shows up. So in these spaces with the group, you can start to see where the point of trauma is, that is pulling all the energy and people in the family kind of to give attention to free something up. It's like a tent that's one of the poles has just gotten way off, so it pulls the rest of the poles over. And when this is freed up, everything can kind of return to its beautiful balance. So, and we have the family soul. So it's really, and you can deal with ancestors who aren't even here. It's not just limited to families. You can look at any topic like illness, money, health, relationships, and set it up, the key aspects of those energy dynamics, and see what's going on, what's stuck. So the field, and this shows us. So it not only can be done with groups, it can be done one-to-one. So the type of therapy I do with people would be having them move around the room, tapping into different aspects of what they're looking at, whatever it is. So it's very embodied experiential therapy that can just bring out so much, go to the roots and shift, so that's what we're looking for. Without hours of endless talk therapy to figure it all out, we're looking to go to the roots, shift it, and then come into wholeness and deeper wholeness. So that's a name of a lot of the work that I do. Then what fascinated me next, I got into, because so much of the work was being processed through my body, and I was doing all these practices for myself and learning as I was receiving as I was training, and vice versa. My body started to move a lot, especially in the sacred spaces that I was in. There's a universal energy that pours through into the planet and can activate, they say, the Kundalini or energy dynamics, deeper energetics of the body, because we're also, as well as physical beings, emotional beings, mental, we have an energetic systems and light bodies. And so all this starts to get activated to kind of help us align, come into deeper alignment. So my body would start to move and jerk a lot. So I found a practice which brings it back down to fundamental physicality and science. Again, this was trauma release exercises or tension release exercises. So looks a bit like yoga, but we're basically activating a reflex that's often dampened in our bodies of that tremor release. So the tremor, these exercises activate an innate healing mechanism within us to start unraveling the body somatics and open up reflexes of the healing reflex of tremor release, as well as then it can be all sorts of different movements and unwinding of the fascia. And this doesn't need to be understood. This is gone back into the mechanics, the nervous system, and releasing again at the somatic level. So, you can see the spectrum of psychology, spirituality, energetics, quantum, and then coming to the mechanics of the body and the nervous system. So I guess I realized really to hold all this bigger work, we need to really have the body nervous system online and balanced. So if we're holding any charge or trauma from different, things that happened when we were younger that we wouldn't even realize, but we might hold something from our birth, or as I said, we need to release something from family, but all that can be held in the body layer upon layer. So we can release that through these exercises, start the tremoring, and then that can just start the body innate intelligence working and opening. And then we realize then there's an intelligence in that tremor that moves through the body. So it starts unlocking parts of the body that hold tension, particularly the psoas muscle, that one deep in our core that links the top of the body to the bottom of the body, and our hips. It's a big one. So when I do TSATRE classes, I would go into the mechanics, the psychology, and the biology of neurophysiology of trauma and how it's stored in the body. So yeah, so you can see how unlocking out the physical body, sorting out our nervous system, and having that feel more balanced. You're able to more embody that sense of your presence in the world, this bigger energy of the spiritual spaces. And then it's like there's just discoveries can get deeper and deeper. Done this work more recently called VAST, Methodologies, Visual and Somatic Therapies, developed by Emily Waymire. And it's bringing the constellation space more into the inner psyche, which I had really realized how beautiful that work is, and that insight from the very beginning of like there's a deeper aspect of our being, and that can really inform us and show us healing and insights that we didn't even know there was a problem. So this body of work has really beautifully brought that out to the fore of looking at our psyche as that quantum space. So setting up the room as our psyche, and we have the parts of us in trauma. So say the trauma field, I love how she named this the trauma field. We can set that up and delegate this part of the room as the trauma field. This is where your core wounds are. And this is where your strategies, your coping mechanisms are. And then we can start. And then on the other side of the trauma field, we have the generative field of where what I would have kind of tapped into would be core essence, and a more embodied sense of self would be core self. Moving in space of going to the roots of whatever issue we have, of what wounding is around that, of what strategies are we living out of. Like so many of us are just living out of strategies of, this is a coping mechanism I did to survive my family, and I'm ongoingly a people pleaser, self-sacrifice, or I'm always a giver, and that's how I fit it into the family. So we realize, this is a strategy, this is not who I really am. So we can understand and really see what the wounded aspects of us needed, and see what the goal of this coping mechanism or strategy is, and start to go, maybe that can be updated into a healthier drive, a healthier thing within the psyche. So these are all aspects within us, so they can often be working against each other and against us moving forward. So being, again, the embodied sense of stepping into these different locations, and then stepping out of the trauma field into core self, which is then the beauty of this is I can stand into that and realize, this feels very different, and I can see my 5-year-old self there, and I can really, the one who's looking for attention from mom and is not getting it, and has that frozen need and keeps in that pattern of why isn't my mom doing this for me? Why? And so it's no, I got you. I'm a fully embodied adult outside the trauma field, capable of loving, seeing you, hearing you, and we can do work with, say, holding the inner child. And that in itself is just, massive integration and healing. And yeah, it's such beautiful work. I could talk so much more about it. And then, once we really, so this weaves, it's almost like the trauma field is so much the psychology of the wounds, the patterns, the attachment styles, the anxiety, the depression, the split parts, fragmented parts. And then when we actually start to see that from, say, core self, and have the spirituality weave with the psychology of the trauma, it just starts to come together into more wholeness and healing naturally. Then we have these movements within our psyche that starts to come into wholeness, as well as, and this is deep work that can go right to the core. And it's also like a repatterning, so it needs to be done over a series of time so that can really anchor in and stick, because the magnetics of the trauma field are really strong. So we need to do this again and again so that we can really keep coming back to core, keep remembering what core is and feeling deeper into core. And when we've done that enough, then we can go into, say, core essence, which is that more ethereal, multidimensional, archetypal realms, and be able to hold that. Like our nervous system is more healed and we're more grounded in our bodies, so we can hold those bigger energies as opposed to getting lost in them and having that spiritual bypass sense of, that can take us off in all directions. And meanwhile, our body is suffering, our physicality is suffering, our inner children, there's often many, are suffering, and they're going to pull us down, and they need our attention, so they'll get louder if they're not tended to. So this is like tending to the soul in a beautiful way. So weaving that journey, just so beautiful to see people get this, and it's embodied it. So it's not something that we, you just in a lot of the non-dual work, it's like you just go there. And in constellations you can see, you can just go there. But if the magnetics of the trauma field are not dealt with, we'll go there, we'll get pulled back in again, and we'll get lost there for a while. We might be able to pull her back out, or we might take substances to get us to feel that more expansive oneness state, but it's still going to keep pulling us back. When we come back to daily life, we'll get depressed or anxious because, we're not dealing with the layers. So it's like, yes, the reality is oneness, and I am presence and void, and that's ultimately what we are. And we're in this physical reality. We need to tend to the levels so all of that can kind of be discharged, what's needs to be healed, so that we can come deeper into the body, and then also open up to the spirit realms and really feel that expansiveness, which can then hold those younger parts even more. So eventually you just get stronger and stronger. And it's exciting then what unfolds from there. People realizing deeper truths, their passions, they're feeling very purposeful in life and very resilient. And then people tapping into their own gifts is just beautiful to watch. I've done these journeys myself, and it's an ongoing journey, of course, for all of us, including myself. And then just to witness clients open up and blossom and have all these insights and revelations, and then just naturally, once it's a commitment of work. Obviously, if we've had a lot of complex trauma, you can't expect everything to be shifted overnight. But if you stick with the journey, it's just beautiful then that you anchor more and more into the generative field, and then things get, and then when things do pop up, there's more tools then that you naturally get from having done this work, that you can shift yourself out of it and come back. So life will always throw us curveballs. There's a lot of kind of crazy stuff happening in the world. So the more we have these tools and this anchoring in core self, the more we're going to be able to manage all of those external worlds. We become more not so much internal focus, but like we have the resources within. And my passion also is how, the resources of the spirit realm, of nature, of living in an organic way. We start to really see what our physicality needs, our body, what our soul is yearning for. And often it is not the conditioned mainstream reality of how things have been operating. So then we can look at the changing paradigms and people coming back to more wholeness, wholesomeness, sovereignty, speaking their truth. And it's even more important now to know our inner truth, because there's so much conflicting information out there now. So it's more than ever now we need to release the layers that are, say, pulling us from the trauma fields of our ancestors, their inner trauma field. We need to get, even the body physiology and the nervous system, sorting that out so that we can really come to that quieter, more wholeness place and see what it is that is right for me in this moment, in each moment. And just having to, instead of, there's a big thing that's happening outside and there's people in fear and lack and survival, kind of pulling back from that. Okay, what's my next right step? And beyond that, then how can that go into thriving? Because once we start working with our soul and our soul in tap with the universe, then it's like there's an infinite intelligence through everything, and things show up. Okay, now that you're available, here's the next beautiful step, or here's the next inspiration. We not have like straight away, our purpose is spelt out in neon lights and that's it. It's like sometimes it's, especially now as these energies are shifting and changing, and so much change, we're needing to know the next right step, and what lights me up, what fuels me, what's gonna take me forward, and how can I create the reality that I want to live in terms of so much of the old ways are not really inspiring or working as they once were. So it's like, how can I create a reality that's that's grounded and going to inspire me, inspire others, and create these new systems that are so needed on the planet right now, as a lot of the old ways are not just inspiring or working as much anymore. So yeah, as you can tell, beautiful journeys are possible. Well, I got affected on my own journey then about different energetics, and when you clear out so many levels, and then you realize, oh, there's other levels that I can really clean up on as well. So I trained in the Spiritist arts, where we can remove or help know how to shift on energies that are not of our natural nature, of maybe something that's impacted a collective energy field, or different things, go into, when I kind of work with people for a longer time, into those things. So yeah, it's just it's a journey that requires dedication and commitment, and no quick fixes. Yes, a lot of society wants to reach for that tablet of, oh, I feel down, let me have that thing that will help me raise my mood, or I want to sleep, so I'll take another tablet to let me rest, and then it just becomes a vicious cycle. There's no judgment there, but it's like, if we knew that there's a way to go to the root of these issues and kind of discharge the nervous system, so we can feel more relaxed, we can sleep better, our muscles are unwinding, and we can tap into a beautiful energy that's going to serve us and inspire us, then I'm all for that. So that's a lot of the inspiration for all the different things I offer, and there's even more that I probably haven't mentioned, but just wanted to give a flavor of, people would have met me under different hats, but even just on your own healing journey, your journey of awakening, that you have some insights from what I have seen and experienced. And if you resonate, feel free to ask me anything you like, any questions, or check in. Always happy to connect with people. And if you feel to work with me on this type of journey, I do have spaces right now, so please get in touch, and I'd love to talk to you. So sending lots of love from Monsoon Valley, and signing out.